So far, all the interaction with the database has been one way. We've simply been taking information from the database and displaying it to the user. Now let's take a look at a way of taking information from the user and storing it on our database. We're going to build a small feedback collection form and a script to handle that feedback once it's input by the user. To begin with, I've added a new table to the MySQL database Vinyl Dealers. And that table is called feedback. And as we can see, there's an ID number, a username where the user can input their name, and a field where they can input their email. And then there's this spam field, which is going to be effectively Boolean. What I mean by that is it's either going to be a true value or a false value. And that, what it means is whether or not they're willing for us to send them details about our site and emails and so on at the address given above. Then there's a field where we can store the user's comments. Let's start work on our feedback HTML form. This is going to look quite similar to the other ones that we've made. This time the header is going to say feedback. We'll put a line break in there. Now we're going to need a form, similar to the last HTML forms that we made. And we're going to send this through to our PHP script. We better think of a name for that now. Let's call it send feedback. And we're going to use the post method to send that data. Let's save our we'll save onto our local host at the document root, and we're going to call this feedback.html. First item on our form is going to be the user's name. We're just going to have a normal text input, and it's going to be the user variable that we send, and we're going to specify a size for our field so that there's not going to be any problems when we try and put it into the database. And we're going to put another input in here. Let's leave a line break, and then this is going to be where they input their email address. And I left something off in this line, which is the type attribute, which is very important. And we're going to write very much the same thing here. And let's put 2 spaces in, and then we're going to have our option for be able to send more information with the user's permission to the email address that they gave us. We can deal with this, how we're going to do that at a later date. So we need to ask them the question, and then we need to, without any line breaks, we're going to put in 2 radio buttons. And we'll copy that line, and this one is going to give a value of 0. So as we can see, it's only 2 values that they're going to be able to use. And let's say we're going to have this item checked by default. That way the user, if they fail to make any changes, then they have tacitly agreed to receiving emails from us. Now, we'll need a field for their comments, which is the main point of this feedback form. And because this is a larger piece of text, we're going to use a text area field. And we're going to make that 60 columns wide. And let's say 10 columns in length. 10 rows in length, rather. And this is going to be the comments field that we're sending. And notice that I've used all the same variable names as we're going to use for the names within our database. Now, you don't have to do that, but this is a very easy way of keeping track of where these pieces of data are supposed to be going. We should close our text area tag there, and then that's going to be our last piece of input. So we also need our submit button, which we'll also call submit, and then we can close our form. And there is our HTML page. Let's take a look at what that looks like. As we can see, there's our form. And although this looks a little large for the screen, that's not going to be a problem with any reasonable size resolution of a screen. The reason this screen is kept at 640 times 400 is for the purposes of making this training video. Most of your users are going to be using a larger screen resolution, so the size of our comments box is not going to be a problem. So that's that for that movie. In our next movie, we're going to develop the script that will deal with this information as it is input.